thanks for allowing me to be here, or at least to participate virtually. And the question is essential because culture is the essence of everything that we are as an organization. It's how we conduct ourselves in our day-to-day, our month-to-month, year-to-year life. It is the values that we project throughout our force, and whether we live those values or not. It drives how well we're able to recruit and retain talent, how well we actually live the culture that we espouse that we live. It affects our ability to get the mission done or fail to get the mission done. It is frankly culture that drives discretionary effort from our workforce. How invested is our workforce truly in the outcome of our mission, or whether or not they're just showing up to check a block each day. Culture is what drives all that. And it's so essential, and particularly for us in the military, it's essential because of the things we ask our young men and women to do. Our culture is built around building trusting, cohesive, fit, disciplined teams. Those teams supporting one another, being selfless, being willing to sacrifice for a greater cause and greater purpose. And without that, quite frankly, our entire military system fails. Doesn't matter what policies we put in place, doesn't matter how many dollars we put behind recruiting. If we don't live that culture, if that's not who we are, if that's not the essence of who we are, then we don't accomplish the mission. More importantly, our model's not sustainable because those are the things that bring people to the military. People come to our ranks to be better. Our culture, our perception of our culture is one that helps people achieve more, do more than they ever thought they could, believe in themselves more than they ever thought that they could. And if that's not truly our culture, then our entire system collapses. So it's essential to everything that we do, not only day to day, but in the global perspective on deployments, whether it's the Southwest border, unrest at the Capitol, or deployments to a combat zone. We've seen our young men and women integrated into that, and how successful it can be when we truly live that culture.
Well, thank you for that. I know that, obviously we understand that, but I think sometimes it's good to hear from leaders in those organizations to really share that, share those views, share those beliefs, and share that sense of purpose. Now, another question, we'd like you to share as a leader, your personal role in making sure that the culture is part of your personal daily leadership.
It has to be, and it may seem difficult to make that connection sometimes because culture is so almost intangible in many ways, with the exception of those artifacts and the historical things that we capture. Culture can be intangible, but it has to be a part of that day-to-day life. And what do I mean by that? First of all, you have to accomplish what I call leadership by walking around. You've got to be in touch with the workforce, and this becomes more complex, more challenging as the scope of your leadership becomes greater. But you truly have to make sure that the audio matches the video when it comes to your organization. That what you say is your culture, that what you say are your values are truly what's happening out there in your organization. And this can sometimes be very difficult because getting to the truth and the essence of the culture. So having a methodology for assessing the culture of your organization, which includes getting out there and sampling for yourself what's actually happening on the ground, or in the suites on the floors below you, or in that office that's halfway across the country. But getting there and tangibly experiencing the culture for yourself, in addition to all those other centers that we have for culture, the surveys and the feedback all those mechanisms that we have for getting feedback from the workforce. But I believe that getting out there and sampling it for yourself is an essential part of a senior leader's responsibility. And part two of that is that where there are indications across the force that there may be pockets that are not living that culture, not experiencing the culture in the way that we'd expect it to, you have to correct that. It's essential that you correct that, because by not doing so, you're messaging a very different message to your workforce, to your force, that can be incredibly detrimental. So as senior leaders, we have a responsibility, regardless of how long it takes, to make those shifts, to make those corrections, because the long-term effects can be so damaging to the effectiveness of the mission. Here's something an example of what I'm talking about. We're experiencing this across the Department of Defense right now because our culture is one of giving everyone an opportunity as part of these teams to meet their full potential. It has always been historically a part of the military that you can achieve whatever you want to achieve, whether that's a college degree, whether that's becoming an officer, whether that's becoming a pilot. If you have the potential, we want you to meet that full potential. Well, when that comes at odds with things like what's been highlighted recently in the media, Confederate naming conventions. When you find out that a part of your workforce finds that counter to the culture, what do you do about that? This is a challenging issue, and it's the scope of it is so overarching. But if you don't at least address the issue, open dialogue about the issue, in this case, Department of Defense appointed a commission to address the issue of something that could have been destructive. Some believe is counter to the culture that we espouse as military leaders. Then we have an obligation to do something about it. And sometimes that can be painful. Sometimes that, in this case, it's probably going to mean renaming of some things across the Department of Defense. And sometimes, in some cases, that means that you have to eliminate some leaders that you may like. And in some cases, it may mean that we have to reassign leaders or eliminate that part of the organization, or find a way to realign that part of the organization that is counter to our culture, because it can be incredibly destructive in the long run for our ability to recruit, retain, and make sure that our talent meets its full potential.
Well, those are wonderful examples, General, and I want to thank you for sharing those insights. And I know today we have organizations at all spectrums, but primarily today the focus is on organizations getting started. And what insights or wisdom would you share with leaders across all sectors as they get started on their journey to performance excellence? And specifically as it relates to culture, what would you share with them?
Number one is as you look at the criteria, the Baldrige criteria, make sure that you put time and effort into the profile, into paying attention, even if you're not competing or putting in an application to compete at the state or national level. Take the time and invest the effort into doing the profile, because that forces you to assess who you really are. What are we as an organization? Who are our customers? What do we believe? And what is our culture? Again, if we're going to have a stated culture as an organization that we state to ourselves and our partners and our suppliers and to our community, what is that culture? What do we want people to know about us as an organization? And as we grow the organization, we have to grow it around that culture and ensure that we grow that culture well and that we protect it, because again, it's the essence of everything that the organization is or will become.
Jenna, we appreciate your conversation, your comments, because I do know that today we have an audience that's excited about getting started. At least they're interested in knowing more about what it's going to take to get started. So any parting words you would share with leaders that are starting their journey? I think your discussion on the profile is right on. We just finished a series, by the way, General, on 13 sessions about how to start using the organizational profile to assess your organization and determine what's most important. We've done that. And today we're here with leaders to say, how do we get started? So any parting words you'd like to share?
Yes, I would. I'd like to leave just this thought. Ensure as leaders that you don't confuse climate with culture. Climate can come and go. Climate can ebb and flow. A very short-term leader can affect climate. I can create short-term enthusiasm. I can create what may be artificial motivation, or a leader can come in and completely squash any fun associated with the job. Let's not confuse that. Climate is short-term. Culture is what we're building and who we are as an organization over time. So look at the organizational artifacts, the history, for us in the military, those things in our museums and the things that we hang on the wall and the posters that we put up and the mottos that we put around. Those are all, our sayings and those models that each of our battalions and our brigades and our wings and our squadrons have, all those things are a part of our culture, and ensure that's as important or more important for you to protect than just an ebbing and flowing climate. And if those things are develop in a way that's counter to the way you need to take the organization, then you need to fix it. You need to fix it. If it alienates a part of your workforce, if it causes your suppliers to perceive you in a way that that is not good for your organization, again, if it affects the recruiting and retention of your workforce, then make sure that you eliminate that and stay focused on the culture and drive that culture. And it takes a long time, and it's not easy, but it takes intense effort from the most senior levels. And the other thing, so don't confuse climate and culture. And the other thing I would say is you have to be patient when it comes to culture. It does not change overnight. It is very difficult to change. And as senior leaders, the way we signal change is not just by speaking it and putting it in policy, but putting resources behind it, putting the resources behind it. If we say equity, diversity, and inclusion are important to us, then are we putting manpower behind it? Are we putting dollars behind it? Are we resourcing it? If we say that whatever the change in culture is, this is important to me, and we need to make sure we point the organization in this direction, then you, in addition to modeling it as a leader, what resources are you willing to put behind it? Not only will that be important to changing the culture, but it's so important to signaling to your workforce also that this is important to me and I need this organization focused here.